What is going on, everybody? I I'm not only excited for this episode, but I'm always excited for the episodes. You should be excited for this episode because I am going to be joined by Lauren Saidel-Baker. Oh my gosh, I got the Baker right. And Lauren is an economist at ITR Economics, a part of Crow LLP, and we are going to talk about the thing that you have all been asking me to talk about, which is tariffs, and the thing I really appreciate about in other ways that that economics are impacting the financial situation here in the U.S., specifically relating to packaging, and we'll probably get into some broader topics. The thing I really appreciate about Lauren and everybody over at ITR, I met at ITR through Alan, who I'll ask Lauren here when we get on the other side, but I've seen Alan talk quite a few times over at TLMI. And I just have appreciated their just very straightforward, data-driven, objective approach to economics. So I'm excited for this conversation. I hope you are too. Let's get going.
Hey, good evening or good morning or good afternoon. I don't know if that, do you say good afternoon? Yeah, that's a word. Whatever time you're listening to this podcast, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. It's considered TV, right? Yeah, I'm guessing. We're live on the YouTube. Live on the YouTube. Not in Belarus, though. Told. For paper, you have to flatten it before you receive. I'm guessing they don't crush everything before they're collecting paper. Like 3D objects get routed away. If you leave your paper like a box, if you leave it assembled, the likelihood that it's going to get back goes down.
Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to listen to the people of packaging. Lauren, hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, Adam?
Good. Did the intro music get you like excited and it's kind of upbeat and jazzy and fun? I don't know.
I'm an economist, so I get excited about absolutely nothing. There's a reason I love the field I'm in, and everyone else thinks it's the most boring thing. But no, I'm fired up. I'm ready to talk economics, tariffs, packaging. Let's go.
That's great. So my first question is, did I feel like I did not get your name correct?
Oh.
So, how do I say your full name again?
It's all good. Saidel-Baker is how I say it, but dealer's choice. It works for me.
All right. Lauren Saidel-Baker. I'm pumped about this because on not just here on the podcast, but when I'm out at trade shows, when I'm hosting the Packaging Today show, co-hosting with Corey and tri-hosting maybe. What do you do when you have three? Anyway, with Corey and Avelio. This has kind of been the topic of the day, and I'll tee it up with this. So this was maybe a month and a half ago. I don't remember the exact date, but somebody said, Adam, can you come and do a webinar about tariffs with us and sort of talk about this post that I did about ibuprofen bottles and what was going to impact it. From the time that we scheduled and announced that we were going to do a tariff webinar, a week later, I was like, I don't think my post is even relevant anymore. So is that sort of what's happening right now? Or we can either jump right into it. Why don't you give me a little bit of an intro on who you are and then start off with that first question, because it just
Sure.
This is a whole topic that I don't really know much about, but I have ChatGPT, so I think I'm ready for it.
You know, it's funny. No one knew much about tariffs until very recently. This just was not the way the U.S. did business since, way back in the day, like we're talking 1800s. So it was really the first Trump administration when tariffs came back to the forefront. Now, I want to point out, we at ITR Economics, we are apolitical. We are nonpartisan. So we're going to talk about politics, but I want to do it in a non-political way, because really, red or blue, that's not what matters here. If you remember back, the Biden administration put tariffs on certain items and certain goods too. So everyone can do tariffs. Again, it hasn't been the focus of our country. I think of everything in economics and elsewise as a pendulum, right? We swing one way, the momentum shifts, it swings back the other. For a while, we were swinging toward globalism. Then several years ago, that momentum started to wane. We started to swing back toward nationalism. This is a broader topic, right? We talk about onshoring, foreign direct investment coming into the United States. Tariffs are just one facet of that momentum swinging back, but it is the overall, economy, the overall environment that we all have to live in and operate our businesses in. So I think it's worth discussing.
Yeah, for sure. How did you wake up one day when you were like 6 and you got your notebook out and you were like writing down like, I want to be an economist when I get older?
I don't think anyone does that. I'd be worried about that person, certainly. But
How did you get
no,
into it?
maybe there's someone out there. I'd love to meet them. But no, I studied economics in college. I went to Wellesley College, had amazing econ professors. I mean, Chip Case, just some of the best in this field. And so that's really what triggered an excitement about it. And ITR Economics has been a great home for me, who, like I said, loves to dig into these nerdy topics. It gets me excited to just help businesses. We do forecasting. We do a lot of speaking work. I'm sure I've seen some of your viewers out on that circuit from the stage. It's exciting to get a message out there, but it is niche. It's weird to me. I have to admit, it's weird that what I do is in demand right now, that like at parties with friends, people want to talk about economics. Usually if someone asks me what I do and I say I'm an economist, they go, oh, okay, never mind. And they slowly extract themselves. But it's fun. It's fun right now.
It reminds me of I got to do a TEDx talk in 2020, and one of my fellow cohort speakers was the state epidemiologist for Utah.
Okay.
And she was like, my job was so boring for a long time. Like, I never got into this to be the person on the news every single night and like becoming like this person. She's like, I just study diseases and I just report data. And now all of a sudden, everybody wants to talk to me and people love me and people hate me. And it was like, I don't know. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
What a trip. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, let's just dive right in then to it, because I know that people are interested, and this is the sort of the topic of the day. And even I'm sure between when we record this podcast and when it comes out, there certainly won't be as long as a delay as normally, because I want the information to be as relevant as possible.
Good.
But even when somebody may listen to this, maybe it's a month later on a recording and they'll be like, wow, Lauren was saying all this stuff. It's like, stuff's going to change, right? Like we can only know what's true today. So I guess I'll start like this. I did not go to Wellesley College. I went to Klein University, the Colorado State University, which is the Harvard of the Rockies. But I am not an economist. I took one class. Can you sort of explain to me, like, what is happening on a very broad level? Like, what is like economics 101 and how are tariffs impacting that? I have ideas, like I said before, but like, you know, opinions are, I've heard a phrase, it's a little bit crass, but opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one and they all stink. I have opinions, but like, what's going on? Like, what's happening right now in the US, and why is everyone freaking out about tariffs?
Well, tariffs, if we look at just the fact of a tariff, all that is a tax. So what tariffs are meant to do is skew incentives. It protects domestic production by making those foreign imports more expensive. So as I look at really who are the winners and losers here, clearly it's what side of the table you're sitting on. Some folks will benefit, some folks will be harmed by this. But at the end of the day, it isn't, I think the tariff itself, and you alluded to this, that things are changing, if not day to day, almost hour to hour.
Right.
I was up on stage giving a keynote, and recently I made a joke. By the time I get off stage, this tariff policy might even be different. And sure enough, I felt so weird because it was that something came out while I was literally speaking. That's so amazing. As I'm looking at these incentives, yes, tariffs are inflationary. Yes, tariffs do tend to reduce growth rates, right? Free trade economics, it gives us that lowest possible cost of production. It kind of maximizes resource allocation. But at the end of the day, with those winners, with those losers, the big impact that I'm watching, that I'm concerned about, is just the uncertainty that this is bringing up. If I'm either an importer, a domestic manufacturer who maybe can't get everything sourced here that I need to import some intermediate goods or raw materials, just not knowing what that stage might look like. If, say, I buy some material from Asia, by the time that ship docks at a US port, what tariff will I be paying on those goods? It's tariff announcement, it's rollback, there's a court blocks, and then the block was blocked. It's just so constantly changing that I think the risk is just delay. Businesses, good, bad, or ugly, want to know what they're up against. So they're saying, I'm going to wait and see. I'm just going to hold off on either hiring or investing, new CapEx spend, whatever it is. We're just going to hold off, wait and see what the landscape looks like so that I can then make an informed decision. Now, on the other side of that timing mismatch, we also saw in the first quarter GDP a huge surge of imports because everyone just wanted to get things in before tariffs hit. So a lot of what I'm looking at, it isn't that activity is being lost, let's say, or happening where it wouldn't have otherwise. We're just shifting the timing around. So we pulled in a lot of what would have been second quarter imports into the first quarter, get them in before the tariff hits. Now maybe we're delaying our decision making. Again, I think the uncertainty is the thing that hasn't yet significantly come down. We're still in this kind of wait and see game.
Yeah, in a weird way, I'll kind of pull it back to packaging. It's a little bit like the economics of recycling. And I'll kind of explain. I know a little bit more about this, where I was talking with somebody whose job it is that they run a recycling facility, and I don't know how nerdy you guys get on, the economic numbers, but there's a report that comes out about, how much is like, what's the value of post-consumer recycled plastic? And that number fluctuates a fair amount.
Right.
And they were like, if you follow these trends, they're like, I can't invest in polypropylene recycling, for example, when I'm only doing PET recycling, because I don't know what the number, by the time I get all my stuff in, I have no idea what the market's going to yield for that. And obviously every business has some sort of uncertainty, right? Like we can't go to the future. We don't have a DeLorean. But it does feel a little bit like that, where it's like, well, I don't even know, you can't really discount, you can't divorce economics and politics, right? Because so much policy is decided at a federal level. But like when I think about it, I'm like, these all happen so fast. And maybe other business owners are like this as well. Like, can they be unrolled just as quickly? Like if there's another shift in 2 years and the House and Senate, or in 4 years, if there's a new president, can they just come in and roll everything back? Like, is that sort of some of the uncertainty that's causing? And then the second question is, what economic indicators should normal people be looking at to say, like, you can follow these numbers to know what uncertainty is doing to, GDP or the market?
Absolutely. So to the first question, yes, there is a real risk. We don't know what tariffs look like under whoever the next president might be. So I think what that has done is I don't want to, I'm trying to walk this line very closely, because we have a ton of foreign direct investment. We have a lot of re-onshoring happening. That is not new. That's been going on for really a decade at this point, not due to tariffs though. Like I said, that nationalism pendulum, it's moving for other reasons. We have a lot of tech here in the United States. Maybe you don't need a factory full of people. You can have robotics, right? Automation doing a lot of that work. We, until very recently, had very low energy costs. So you could save on having a manufacturing facility here versus in, say, Asia, where typically our electric cost was 1/3 the level it would have been in China. There are just a ton of domestic, whether, incentives to come in. Even just being close to such a large consumer base is a great thing for these businesses. So is it tariffs per se that I want to, say, abandon my investment in some other country, move that facility to the United States just for the sake of tariffs? I don't think this is the trigger for a lot of that re-onshoring. I think the re-onshoring is happening for other reasons. Maybe tariffs are a nice little bonus. It's a good cherry on top. But I really have a hard time seeing businesses say, by the time I get my new facility finished, by the time it's even up and running, well, that's probably longer than a 4-year presidential term, or at least close to it. So is that the deciding factor? I don't think that's what's causing all of this movement in the first place. So I say all of that really to get to the point that if tariffs just went away tomorrow, we just wave a magic wand and they're gone, that does not reverse this onshoring we've seen. There are really good fundamental reasons to be doing business here in the United States.
Love that.
And as for the second question, the indicators, we have so many of these on our website, ITReconomics.com. A lot of blog posts that copy the, what do I think of it as, like the topic du jour? What are we looking at today? What's, front and foremost. These things do, I think, come in and out of importance right now. Maybe we are watching those ones associated more with uncertainty, with not sentiment per se. Sentiment gets a little squirrely, but at the end of the day, we're watching the big things, the GDP, the industrial production. I mean, we're watching just the level of imports and exports. That's very much moving the needle right now. But more broadly speaking, we do actually have a system of leading indicators. We have about 15,000 of them in our database. I don't encourage you to follow every single one, but there's a lot of good stuff in there, and it matters what business you're in, why you care about it. Are you looking at construction? Are you looking at retail spending, right? We have kind of something for everyone is how I like to think about it. So the best leading indicator, I know this is kind of a bad answer, but it's the one that matters most to your business, that has a correlation to whatever it is you do.
That makes a lot of sense. And for the general public, so let's talk about, like, I'll just grab this. So
Sure.
I've got this Arrowhead 100% Mountain Spring water. This is an aluminum can, or an aluminum material, right? Everything on this is aluminum, or Coors Light, or whatever it is. When something like aluminum gets impacted, what, like, or I guess impacted is a different word, because in my brain I think about it like this, right? We tariff imports on aluminum. We don't make a ton of aluminum here. We do a little bit. We import quite a bit of aluminum. Aluminum is very recyclable. It's one of the most recycled materials. 60-something% of all aluminum that's ever been brought in is still here. So what should we, I mean, is it still kind of the same answer on, like, the uncertainty is going to still keep driving a market like aluminum, or, plastic imports or things like that? I'm just trying to think, like, is there anything specific to packaging, or is it all sort of generally impacted just relative to the tariff and the material?
So aluminum, I think, is a great example, because we have a lot of history for that was impacted back in 2018, right? Way back. It seems so long ago now, but with those first round of tariffs on steel and aluminum. So we've seen how this plays out. Critically, what happened with aluminum back in 2018? We got a big spike in the price when those tariffs went into effect, because we can't produce the aluminum. We're not mining enough here, right? We just do not have the existing capacity. We need to bring in aluminum to use it for these packaging and so many other products.
Stuff, yeah.
So much stuff. If you fast forward 1 year from those first round of tariffs in 2018, skip to 2019, the actual price of aluminum, it was actually lower at the end of that year, because despite the initial shock upward from tariffs, economic fundamentals reasserted themselves. At that point, we were just on the downside of the business cycle. Demand wasn't there, not for tariff-related reasons, for other more macro driver reasons. So we ended the year with a lower price ultimately. So I use that as an example, not to say what will happen this time. We're at a very different economic phase of the cycle, right? We're just starting to see demand pick back up, so that'll put upward pressure on prices. But that is to say that fundamentals are really what matter here. If I look at aluminum specifically for packaging, for consumer packaging, those type of products are just in more and more demand. We have a tight labor market today that's keeping upside pressure on wages. And really, really critically, that wage pressure, it's outpacing inflation. So as much as we as consumers, we complain about the prices on store shelves, we don't feel good about how much money we have to go spend to buy things. At the end of the day, our wages are rising at a faster pace than inflation. So our purchasing power is better off today than it has been at any point in history. That means we can still go out and buy those goods. And when we can, we do. That's always true of the US consumer. So the general economic fundamentals are that despite tariffs, yes, we're going to keep bringing aluminum in. Now, inflation is where we'll see this coming through. This will cause higher pricing, but does that necessarily cause an offsetting drop in volume? That's not guaranteed.
Interesting. Okay, that's fascinating and cool to hear. Kind of one of the things that I've always appreciated about ITR Economics, whenever I've heard Alan speak specifically, is he's very, like, objective, and I'm guessing this is sort of the MO of the company, about saying this is what we're seeing in the data and this is what we expect in the future. Whether it was related to not just tariffs, but he would talk about like investing, and he would say,
Yep.
he'd say, I think this is a great year to invest. Our model predicts that interest rates will stay, X. So if you can get into a home now, but by year Y, our model predicts that, this may happen, or I guess the probability is probably going to increase. Nobody can say like definitively this was going to happen in the future.
Of course. I wish we had the crystal ball. That would be nice.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, that would be like prophecy. And I'm a Southern Baptist preacher. And what was fascinating to me is I'll get a little bit religious here for a second. But they used to tell somebody who would say like, I'm a prophet. And they'd be like, all right, well, like basically like predict something that's going to come true. And if it comes true, then cool. If it doesn't, then we're going to murder you. And that was like that was the consequence. Sometimes I wish that someone's like, no, this is definitely going to happen. It's like, well, if it doesn't, can we kill you? I'd be like, no, I'm not that guy.
I'm glad that's not. I have to admit, but I mentioned I majored in economics at Wellesley. I actually had a double major, and my other one was religion. So I think we're in a unique position here. If you can't, if you don't like where the economy's going, maybe we pray about it or something. I'm not sure I've met anyone else with that double major.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So maybe just give like if when you're giving keynotes now, like what are some sort of like high level general things that you're seeing there? It doesn't have to be related to packaging, but this is also the people of packaging, so that just like Americans in general may find interesting in terms of the forecasting of where we're going.
All right. Well, if I give you just the big high level headline, no recession. The chances of recession may have increased marginally with all of this, again, tariffs, uncertainty, et cetera, et cetera. But the underlying strength that we see in the US economy today, it is actually people. Consumer spending makes up 2/3 of GDP. And for reasons I just mentioned, that strong labor market, keeping wages higher, keeping our incomes rising. We have pretty low unemployment. It's a generally tight labor markets. That means more people making more money. That's going to be the fundamental support, right? The kind of floor for our economic growth. We have that broad-based support right now. So if you hear nothing else, please hear this: no recession.
You mean no recession in the near term future? Is that like? Is that what you mean by that? Not like we'll never have a recession ever in the history of our country.
I would never say that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll turn it actually to if you want bad news. I know I'm an economist. That's what I'm supposed to give. But we think
you just give news. I think that news doesn't need to be moral. It can just be news, right? Like,
I hope so. Because know what's coming, good, bad, or ugly. You can position yourself for it. So again, there was a lot of concern in the first quarter. GDP did actually tick down. We got a slight contraction in that 1Q 25 GDP. That's a sequential growth rate, right, compared to 4Q of 24. The reasons for that is everything I just said: imports coming in ahead of time, right? We front loaded all of those imports. Mathematically, the way GDP is calculated, you subtract imports from other activities. So I don't see that as, typically the accepted definition of a recession is 2 consecutive quarters of GDP decline. So when that 1Q number came out, everyone said, we're halfway to recession, to which we said, no, we just shifted the timing of imports. This is really mathematical. There was a very small contribution from the government side. That went slightly negative with all of the DOGE cuts, the layoffs, et cetera. A lot of defense cuts actually was driving that. So if I look at that result, yes, those 2 things went negative. That brought the overall total down. But is that how a business feels a recession, or a person, the average consumer, feels recession? No. We saw consumption increase. We saw business investment still increasing. So the typical feeling of the economy, even if this were to be a traditional recession, right, 2 consecutive quarter drop, this is not going to feel to anyone like a recession. So I think it would be a hard reach to get 2Q numbers to come in negative. We won't get that repeat in the kind of timing shift of imports. We're watching the other factors here, but like I said, consumer spending being 2/3 of GDP, that's going to be supportive. That is still growing. We're still going out and spending more. So when everyone says a recession coming this year, is there a recession in 2025? I say pretty emphatically, no, we don't see that. And even if through some weird quirk of the math it were to happen, this is not what a business should react to as a recession. Now, I told you I had some. Oh,
the other
sorry.
14,999 indicators say that the
Yeah.
one might be a little bit off. By the way, when I know you want to get to the bad news or the
Well,
not.
they do say slower growth than we might have had otherwise. So we
Got
did
it.
take growth down a little bit, but we didn't take it down so far as to go negative. Now, the other shoe to drop, 2030, that is where I do see not a recession with an R, but a depression with a D. We have been forecasting this. You probably heard it from
Yeah.
Alan. We've been on record 10, 15 years saying that due to demographics, due to government overspending, our debt position is bad and getting worse. We
I've
see
seen the graphs. It's just like,
not a good trend line.
that
Man, it's shocking. I know everyone says, oh, of course the debt's out of control. It's been out of control for so long, but we just keep kicking the can down the road. We see 2030 as when we run out of road straight into a brick wall. So if you want some good news, no recession in the near term. And if you want, it's not bad news to your point. This is not moral, but just news that some big event is coming. It can actually be good news because if you see this coming, if you prepare yourself, if you maybe live a little bit below your means, don't be over levered heading into it, it actually can be a great wealth generating event, right? They say buy low, sell high. So sell high, ride out the downturn in more conservative fashion, and then buy at the low. This is going to be the best low that any of us will ever see to buy property, to buy businesses, to buy equipment, to buy, you name it. Everything will just be on fire sale prices come kind of the middle of that decade.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you'll have to have cash. You'll have to be able to get access to equity or in order to buy it. So, and I think that's why it's not either good nor bad, right? It's just like if somebody says, hey, we have a high degree of probability to predict that there will be a depression in 2030.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's in 4.5 years, and that's going to go by very quick. But
Yes.
that it's not like you're saying 2026 we're going to have a depression. And nobody cut this out, by the way. Don't like chop up this podcast and be like, Adam said in 20. You're not saying that at all. And so I think that that's the thing I'd always loved about Alan was and he's been saying this for years at the TLNI shows. 2030, 2030, 20. I have other friends who are economists and they're like, yeah, I mean, again, because it's just data. It's not, oh, well, if we were to just elect this political ideology it was just like, it's just numbers and data and economic indicators.
It is. And those drivers aren't going away, red or blue. I mean, we haven't had a balanced budget since Clinton. We've had a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats. They all just increase the deficit, increase the debt. And so as far as, how could we avoid it? Elect that one magical, I don't know, prophet or something. It's coming up so close. And really the drivers here, we are going to see spending under the government really balloon just as this demographic glut moves through our system, right? We have a lot of baby boomers who are going to start drawing down Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid spending. We account for so much more of that healthcare spending at end of life as they approach that. This is all going on the government books. So unless we materially reform Social Security and healthcare spending, which I don't see happening under either party, and even if it did,
I mean, it seems like to me, sorry to interrupt you, but
sure.
To me, it just seems like the drastic nature of that would be, potentially really harmful to people.
Exactly.
And that's the rub, right? It's just like,
right. There's no pain-free way to do this. Even if we did something, say it wasn't too little too late, there are going to be other unintended consequences. So
right.
At this point, something has to give. I don't know what exactly how we'll get out of it, but I don't see a way that is pain-free economically.
Yeah. Well, that is kind of depressing. No, but I mean, but it's again, it's the way that I was kind of trained on how to think through various different things, but one of them is this method called exegesis. If you've heard that word, it's actually a religious, spiritual word. But I apply it to so much of my life, which is like the first stage is like you start with what's objectively true, like what is true objectively, and then you build out from there through interpretive analysis, and then you come up with an application. But so many people start with the application already. They start with like, this is what I want to be true. And then they will just sort of grab various little chunks of data here and there to support what they already want to be true, not say like, This is
Right.
just like you said. Here's the indicators. This is the numbers. This is what we
Yeah.
think. This way how we interpret it. And so that's one of the things that has always been pretty solid. So what solid about ITR?
Thank
So
you. And no, I appreciate that. That's what we pride ourselves on.
yeah. So what exactly do you do?
Yeah, there are things you can do. So
You're like
there's
I mean you like what is I not
yeah.
what does the general person do? Sorry. Like
Oh,
what does Lauren like what does somebody at ITR do?
yeah.
And I mean you mentioned like you do keynotes, people go to your
Gotcha.
website, they like
Yeah.
could a general person be like, I want to go get information and subscribe to something? I legitimately don't know. I should have done.
We do a lot. Really, everything that I do on a day-to-day basis is just getting this message out there to help individuals, to help businesses. So we do that in a lot of different ways. Like I said, I give keynotes at things like industry conferences or sales meetings. Just we spread our message. We also do a lot of one-on-one consulting work with different businesses. We'll give you a 3-year forecast for your sales. Do you need to expand now? Do you need to hire? Do you need to cut costs because the cycle's turning? And we'll have that conversation. That's probably my favorite part of the job, is just getting to have these one-on-one discussions with business leaders about what are your pressures today, what's keeping you up at night, and what data can we bring in that's going to help you make better decisions. Now, if you take this down a level from that kind of business whole business overview, we put out so much on our website, a lot of it for free. We have blog posts, we have YouTube videos that just say, we have one called Fed Watch. What is the Fed doing right now? Will they cut rates? Won't they cut rates? Just all kinds of things that we are watching just to get that message out. We also have subscriptions. You can subscribe to our trends report or to our insider publication. You can become an insider with us and get that latest thinking. So it's very much choose your own adventure, right? We have all things for all purposes. And if we don't have it, we'll probably make something that works to fit the need.
And can it be like if being in the package, like can it be industry specific reports that I
Oh,
can
yeah.
get?
We
Okay.
have a lot of industry specific reports. Even within a trends report is kind of our flagship that has different modules, one just for the financials, one for manufacturing, one for construction. So all of us are jacks of all trade. We don't really specialize so much. We're all generalists, but we certainly delve deep into all of these other sectors.
That's awesome. Well, last question, and then I'm going to let
Sure.
you go. And when you're done answering this, you can let people know how they can get a hold of you and all that good stuff. But you started to kind of talk about it, and I thought it was actually a better answer than the question that I asked. So what advice would you give? Like you're at a neighborhood party and someone's like, "Oh my gosh, Lauren, you're an economist. What can I do? Like, are there things that I can be doing right now, just as an individual or as a family to to kind of prepare?"
I would say make hay while the sun shines. We are looking at another 4 or 5 years of pretty steady growth, not runaway growth. This is nothing like 2021 and 2, where just everything was surging back from the pandemic. So reset your expectations. Look for that steadier growth. It's going to be a tight labor market. Again, put yourself in that best position. But beyond that, I would say it's time. Our government's been living just so far beyond its means for so long. We all need to live a little bit below our means. So now is not the time to take out a jumbo mortgage on the mansion. Now is not the time to get yourself too far underwater. Be a little bit more conservative. I wouldn't say, get out of all your investments. It's too soon for that. We still do have upside, but have a plan, because come 2028, 2029, we'll see those leading indicators start to roll over. We will see that decline coming. We'll have a better sense of timing. Like, I wish I could tell you it's going to be October 3rd. It's going to be at 3 p.m. Sell everything, get out. We'll know as this gets closer, but have your plan for what will you do? What flight to safety assets are typically going to perform better? Usually, I would suggest government treasuries. That's the ultimate flight to safety, but I just finished telling you that our government debt is the problem here. So that's not the solution for me this time. Maybe it's foreign government debt. I really like Canada, Australia, and Switzerland for that. Maybe Maybe it's, look at hard assets, look at precious metals, whatever and this is a conversation to have with your financial advisor, not with an economist on the internet. But know what your risk
Especially on a
tolerance is.
packaging podcast, you're like, I heard an interview on a packaging podcast with an economist, and so
Exactly.
but
This
all
is
of
not
my
investment advice. This is meant to be idea generating. But
Exactly.
have that discussion. But more than anything else, talk to them now. Don't wait until we see the end coming, because by then it just takes a while to get those plans in motion, right? To figure out the mechanism to do these things that you need to do. Whatever it is, however you weather that downturn, batten down the hatches in 29, 30, ride that downturn. It's going to be long. This is not like 2008 where we had like 2, maybe 3 quarters of decline. We're looking at a multiple year slide. So you're going to need to emotionally prepare for that in addition to financially preparing. And then the best thing I can tell you, be ready on the other end to take all of those assets that you protected so hard, tooth and nail on the way down. It's going to feel bleak at the low point. You're going to feel like that salmon swimming upstream, going out on a limb, but just buy anything you can get your hands on. That is going to be how we generate just a huge amount of wealth. Look back to the last Great Depression in the 1930s. Be a Rockefeller this time around. This is the opportunity. So we will be signaling the timing as it gets closer. Again, you're going to find all of that on our website, ITReconomics.com. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn. We're even on Instagram. I don't know why an economics firm has an Instagram page, but you can find us on all the usual social sites. And as I said, we're just going to be shouting it from the rooftops as it gets closer. We hope you'll listen in.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Lauren, for just all these insights. I've got so many fun things to share with people. So I will try to be somebody who takes your message and pushes it out even further as far as I can. And would love to have you back on, and whenever it makes sense. I know you'll be making the rounds, but I've really appreciated and enjoyed our conversation. Everyone go check out ITR Economics, right? With an S.com.
With an S.
All right, ITReconomics.com. Lauren, thank you for joining the show, and we'll stay in touch and I look forward to subscribing and kind of following along. So it's been super helpful. Thank you.